morning, Bunners. We're here this morning with Deputy Mayor Brendan Kelly. Welcome, Brendan.
Thank you very much.
So we're here because Brendan is up for re-election this year, and we want to know, back in 2007, what motivated you to become councillor?
A couple of motivations. Firstly, I believe that I wanted to have some environmental input to the council at the time. I guess subsequently I learned that there are balances that need to be put between development and environment, but I felt that I have brought some environmental aspect into council since then.
Okay, because I do think of green when I think of you. I'm not sure why that is. Mate, were you at the Environment Centre for a while?
I was part of the Southwest Environment Centre for quite some years. I think I've got a pretty good background in conservation and environment, and I've been a professional in natural resource management for quite some years, decades indeed.
Okay.
So I have a natural bent towards conservation and environment, and that lent over to the environmental side of the world.
Okay, so actually in Bunbury you have a passion for public open space?
I have a passion to make Bunbury the best place it can be, and that's the environment that we're blessed with down here in the southwest. We need to maintain that because it underpins our whole existence. If we don't have a clean environment, if we don't have public open space, if we don't have all of those things that the planet gives us, then we don't have much lifestyle at all.
Yeah. So you wanted to create an accessible and inclusive Bunbury, and you've just launched the Marcia program?
Yes.
Initiative?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm very passionate about Marcia. Marcia is the most accessible regional city in Australia by 2020, and that's our vision. It's a resolution of this council, the City of Bunbury, to become as accessible and inclusive as possible. And we believe it's a no-brainer. We've set ourselves a couple of years to do this, and we're well underway at the moment. So for everybody, keep an eye out for Marcia. It's a great project, and I think it's an inclusive project, brings everybody into the fold.
Okay, so can you explain what does exactly accessibility and inclusive mean?
I can do that, yes. Well, firstly, there's physical access. That's a matter of, if we have facilities in Bunbury that are okay for a person who is quite able to get around, fit, healthy, those facilities should be available to anybody else. Now that could be a person who's pushing a pram, a mum or a dad pushing a pram. It could be Nana, who's a little bit unsteady on her feet. It could be somebody in a wheelchair, or it could be your star hockey player who's just done a knee.
Yeah.
What we're saying is that it doesn't matter what the facility is, the location is, the place, it should be accessible to somebody who is working with some disability at the time, whatever that may be. It also is an intellectual accessibility. If you suffer from autism, if you have English as a second language, you should be able to access facilities and places and things. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, if you like, that comes into that. Inclusion, part of it is making people feel inclusive about, or feeling included in what we've got in the city. So it's no point in setting up a physically accessible area if somebody's sitting back saying, well, I don't think those people want me to be there.
Yeah.
Because they might look different, they might sound different, whatever the case may be. So access is good, physical access to be able to get somewhere, but you also must have that inclusiveness. No matter where you come from, what your religion is, what you look like, whether or not your hair colour is pink, purple or orange,
Yeah.
you are included.
So that would come from working with the community and all those different community groups, wouldn't it?
We want this to include sporting groups, business, you and me,
Yep.
anybody else, all people. It's an inclusive thing. So to make a community inclusive, you must have everybody pulling together, and that's what we hope to be able to do, and make it a part of being a good Aussie.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. Also, you say you support the Bunbury Marina, and you're lobbying to reopen the Outer Harbour and Casuarina Point to the public. How important is this to you and to Bunbury?
It's a great access thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll go to the Outer Harbour first. The Outer Harbour was closed off virtually without any consultation whatsoever on the basis of security issues. My argument is that the Outer Harbour and Casuarina Point has been a place for Bunbury people, young people surfing, older people fishing, people just walking, perambulating out there to have a look at whatever they want to have a look at. It is a place that people have an attachment to. There was no need to close it on the basis of security, in my view. They have a security guard out there. All they needed to do was put that person in a strategic place to ensure that nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that's a place that the public want access to, and it should be open.
Okay.
The marina in Kumbana Bay, it's a great idea. It's an idea whose time has come. Obviously there have to be environmental matters taken care of, and there will be a public environmental review in context of the marina project to ensure that whatever we do, we don't stuff up.
Yep.
By putting a breakwater in the bay, does that mean that sand goes from one place to another? Does it fill up the shipping channel? Does it cause another problem that costs many, many dollars to fix? So there is an environmental component that must be handled, and it must be done, and it must be signed off correctly.
Yep.
But the marina, we are a port city. We are a city surrounded by waters. We have the Great Indian Ocean just out that way, and we love that outdoor style and boating, fishing, etc. So it's a great idea. We just need to make sure that it's orderly, and what I say, it's a progressive development, orderly development, which considers the environment that it's in.
And of course the community. It has come from the community, I understand.
Yep, and I haven't met anybody in the community yet who said, "Oh, bad idea, Brendan, bad idea, councillor." That's not happening. The community, from what I can tell, subject to all the usual checks and balances, are saying yay.
Okay, awesome. So we're coming down to the last few questions. I think we've covered your passions. Yes. What do you love about Bunbury?
Well, on a beautiful day like this in springtime, being outside in a great garden outside the council chambers, that's a start. We have one of the most brilliant backgrounds to any place on the planet. It's a great spot to live. The people in my time as a councillor, 8 years so far, and I'm hoping to get re-elected for another 4 to fulfil some of those goals, are great. I get people ring me up. Sometimes it's about a pothole, sometimes about a tree or a fence or something, but they're always really great. They say, please can you assist? It's a please and thank you thing in Bunbury, and I think as a community we can only get better, and if we're inclusive, things are accessible. Sure, we have our differences. I might be a Geelong fan, go Cats, or the fella behind the cameras, he's probably a Dockers man. Bad luck. However, we have one thing in common. We are West Australians, we are Australians. We live in Bunbury. We love our community. We live here for a purpose and a reason, and we need to make sure that we hand it on to the next generation in best shape as possible.
Yeah. So you might have covered this, but what makes you a good councillor? What sets you apart from everybody else?
The number one thing about being a good councillor is being able to listen.
Listen. Yeah.
And if you can't listen, you should not be there. You might not agree with everything that you hear. However, you need to balance that, because you are, after all, elected by people to represent them. And so it's a matter of gathering all of the information, hearing what people have to say, and making a judgment. Sometimes the judgment is difficult. It's a bit like the wisdom of Solomon, if you like, but you need to make a call, and that's why you've been elected. You make the call, but you must firstly listen.
What's the wisdom of Solomon?
That's a biblical story where 2 women were claiming the same baby.
Okay.
And Solomon, who was the king, said, well, we'll cut the baby in half and you can each have half. And the real mother was the one who said, no, please do not do this, on the basis that it was her child. It's a good biblical story.
That's good. The last thing I was going to say, I think what may set you out from the rest is your knowledge of council policies, protocols and systems. How important is that?
I think it's very important to understand that the technical side of where you work. So the Local Government Act is something that governs how we behave and what decisions we're making. So it's about understanding bureaucracy, it's about understanding the system. And I've spent quite a few years understanding that. I won't say I would know it all, because you never know it all, but I try hard and I keep at it.
Well, thank you very much for your time and we wish you all the best.
You're welcome, Adele.
Deputy Mayor Brendan Kelly, thank you.